what the Ukraine war is really about. The Ukraine war is really about a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia over influence in Ukraine. Look at a map. Who would you expect to have more influence in Ukraine, Russia or the United States? I'll go with Russia. First of all, it's the next door neighbor.
Yeah.
It's the next door neighbor. Second, Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire for hundreds of years. Third, it is linguistically, culturally, religiously close to Russia. But the United States gets this idea, no, we can't let Russia have influence in Ukraine. This is a typical evangelical imperial idea. Very British, by the way, as I said, because the British had the same idea in the 1850s. Literally, Britain and France teamed up to try to push Russia out of the Black Sea. And that was the Crimean War. And we're in the second one now. So we have this very weird idea. The United States could not leave well enough alone. It decided, well, we need to push our military into Ukraine and into Georgia. That idea came already in the early 1990s, and it was actually explained in detail by Zbigniew Brzezinski, the U.S. Geopolitical strategist, in writings in 1997. And then George W. Bush Jr. tried to implement it by announcing in 2008 that NATO would enlarge to Ukraine and to Georgia. Quickly, Russia beat up Georgia and said, don't even think about it. And in Ukraine, a cascade of crisis emerged. But most importantly, Ukraine elected a president in 2010, Viktor Yanukovych, who said, we'll be neutral. Thank you very much. We'll be neutral. Stay out. But the United States couldn't stand that, so they worked to depose him. And in February 2014, worked to overthrow Yanukovych. So Russia's watching the U.S. pursue a regime change operation next door. Think of it from a U.S. perspective. If China were in Mexico City overthrowing the Mexican government so that the new government could announce that it will have Chinese military bases on the Rio Grande, the United States might be a little unhappy with that. Well, that was the situation as it unfolded in Ukraine in February 2014. Putin took back Crimea, which is where their naval base is. He wasn't claiming it beforehand. He just had a long-term lease on it. But then when the United States moved in February 2014 and worked to overthrow the government, Putin said, I'm not going to let Sevastopol, a naval base, fall to NATO. Are you kidding? So he took Crimea back. Then what ensued over the next 8 years was lots of complication, which I won't go into detail, but essentially the U.S. arming a anti-Russian regime that had been installed in Kiev and building up towards war. And Putin kept saying, stop this. You know, there were the Minsk treaties, and then there was Putin's proposal for a security arrangement with the United States at the end of 2021. And the U.S. position was, we don't negotiate with Russia. Russia's, as they said, a gas station with nuclear weapons, but it's a second-rate power, was the U.S. attitude. Putin said, okay, we'll see. And this is where we are right now. Now, this war should never have happened. It is a war based on American stupidity, I'll say, and arrogance. The off-ramp came in 2008, in 2014, in 2021, and in April 2022, when Ukraine said, okay, we'll be neutral. And the United States said, hell no, you keep fighting. We'll keep arming you. You keep fighting. Okay, that's why we have this war going on. Ukraine is never going to join NATO, period. Because Russia's going to defeat Ukraine through conventional arms. But if for whatever reason that didn't happen, it's going to go nuclear. Ukraine is not going to join NATO. And the United States leaders need to get it through their thick skulls that they have to stop pushing this, because there can't be peace otherwise. And this current situation's no good for anybody, least for Ukraine, of course, which has lost territory now that Russia didn't even claim 3 years ago. But because of the war, it's claiming it. And Ukraine is losing hundreds of thousands of fighters who are dying or becoming severely wounded. The society and the economy has broken apart. This was all predictable. I called it right at the beginning. I wrote an article called The Neocons' Latest Debacle, because I said, as soon as this started, this is stupid. Can you understand anything, you people in Washington? Don't do this. You can't win. Ukraine will lose. And I tried to talk to the Ukrainian authorities about this, because I know a thing or two. I actually advised Ukraine's President Kuchma back in 1994. I advised Yeltsin. I know the region. They said, oh, you're just a Putin apologist. I said, I'm trying to help you. You don't understand. You're getting into a dead end, literally, this way. And I'm trying to help spare you this disaster. Well, they couldn't understand it. They thought I was just pro-Russian propagandist, frankly. But the point is, all of this disaster was predictable. And I tried to talk the White House out of this. I mean, I'm just one person, an academic, but I know people. And I told them at the end of 2021, don't go to war over this. Negotiate with Russia over this. Negotiate. Well, they couldn't hear that. So here we are, and I say every day, Biden needs to pick up the phone and say to President Putin, you know what? That NATO enlargement wasn't a good idea. We're not going to do that. We'll say that publicly. We'll stop this fighting. Let's work this out politically. And I keep offering he can use my cell phone. He can use my Zoom account. Any way he wants to call, he can do it. But they don't do it yet. But that's what they should.